November of my senior year of high school, I took what was for me a really spontaneous trip to the Bahamas with my then boyfriend and several of our friends and a few of his family members. We ended up staying there for about 9 days, but the most memorable day for me was the very first full day that we were there. I woke up that morning on the beach in the Bahamas, slightly hungover, and my boyfriend frantically waking me up because we were super late. We were supposed to go on a dive trip together that we've been certifying for here in the States like the month prior to leaving. And at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, whatever it was when we woke up, we didn't exactly know how to get a taxi or anything at that time in the morning, so we ended up running, like sprinting the mile and a half back to the hotel room. And when we got there, luckily enough, our friends and our family had already started packing up a lot of our dive gear, and we were able to get in the car. We grabbed a breakfast burrito that they had made at like that little kitchenette thing that's in the hotel room. You've seen it. And we were on our way. So it took us about 20-25 minutes to get to the dive shack. And when we got there, I guess island time really does like work around there because everybody else that was going on the trip with us was about a half hour, 45 minutes late. So it really wasn't that big of a deal that we were late. And we proceeded inside to go ahead and pay the rest of the balance on what we owed for the trip. And I'm always super prepared. I had my dive certification laminated, and I had like a release form signed by my mom saying that I could dive as a minor with Kurt's older sister at the time. And I had it notarized at the DMV, and I was ready to go. And they'd never even actually asked me for my dive certification, which I spent like $500 on here in the States. So I guess if you ever want to try diving, the Bahamas is the place to do it, even though I don't know if I'd recommend that because it was really helpful. But anyways, we ended up getting on the boat, and we drove about a half hour out into the ocean and dropped anchor. And my boyfriend at that time told me it would be a good idea for me to go ahead and start getting my wetsuit on, which it was, because I was always like a super sight because I can't ever work those things, especially when you're wet. It was like really funny. And I ended up getting ready and looked over the side of the edge of the boat and saw something that I really wasn't comfortable with at all. Here in California, the visibility of the water is like maybe 6 to 7 feet on a really good day. In the Bahamas, you can see 35, 40 feet through the water. It's really beautiful, really clear. And I ended up looking over the boat that day and saw a swarm of like 15 to 20, like 6, 7 foot reef sharks. And I was like super freaked out. I was like, there's no way I'm getting in the water. And I looked at Curtis, and of course, he had planned the trip. Like, he knew like that we were going to be diving with sharks, and he hadn't told me, so I was really upset. And I had saved like a lot of money to go on this trip, and I was really excited about it. It was going to be my first dive. And he told me just to sit at the edge of the boat, and he was trying to calm me down. And he was like, well, maybe if you put like your regulator in your mouth, like it's oxygen, like maybe it'll help you. And dumb me at the time, I did it. And him being a wrestler in high school, he like flipped me over the edge of the boat. And I was flailing in the water, and I lost my regulator, and I started like choking on water. It was horrible. At this point, I was like super pissed. And I made my way to the back of the boat, and he was sitting there with me. And he said, you know, you've already made it this far. You're already in the water. They're not like coming to attack you or anything. Like, just get in the water. So he ended up with a little bit of convincing, talking me into doing it, and I did. I dove with like 6, 7 foot reef sharks, and they were just several inches, like I could touch them at some points. And it was one of the most beautiful and interesting experiences I've ever had in my entire life. And I realized that the boundaries that I had put in place for myself were just that, like put in place by me. And I realized that taking risks isn't always such a bad thing. And even though I haven't always ended as successfully as maybe that day, I always learned something from it. And I think that's probably one of the most memorable days of my life.